is the editor of TR Emeritus. He's also a businessman, one of the most hardworking people I know. And if you read tremeritus.com, sometimes it doesn't portray him like what he actually is in real life. A very nice man. So, round of applause for Richard Wan, please.
Thanks, Andrew. Okay, good afternoon, fellow netizens and bloggers. I would like to start by examining what MDA has said with regard to their light touch policy. Now, according to MDA, it said that they have been very judicious in issuing takedown notices since the class license scheme came into effect in 1996. It said that since 1996, there has only been one takedown notice for religiously offensive content, that is the innocence of Muslim video, and 23 other instances of many pornography-related contents due to public complaints. Now, what this means is this: on the average, then we are talking about less than 1.5 takedown notices per year for the last 17 years. So, therefore, we can conclude two things from this little observation. Number one, we can observe that the Singapore blogging community is generally very discerning and law-abiding. So I think give yourself a clap. Now, so that being the case, why the need for MDA to come up with more rules and regulations? Now, the second observation is this: the low takedown rate is also due to the fact that the infringing online cases are already being handled by the other existing laws. Existing laws already address some of the online infringement because some of the past offenders were prosecuted under the other laws. And again, we ask ourselves, why the need for MDA to come up with more rules and regulations? Indeed, netizens and bloggers are questioning exactly this: why the need for MDA to come up with more rules and regulations. Marua, a Singapore human rights group, wrote to the Straits Times a few days ago, arguing that existing laws such as the Sedition Act, the Maintenance of Religious Harmony Act, already restrict and control online discussion of sensitive issues relating to race and religion. So in the past, prosecution have also been successfully undertaken over online hate speech using such laws. And in addition, there are other laws like the Penal Code, which can also be used to deal with online infringements for offences affecting public tranquility, safety, decency and morals. And the Penal Code also deals with words or writings with deliberate intent to wound the religious or racial feelings of anyone, or to intimidate or insult anyone. So as you can see, there's a whole bunch of rules and regulations already there, and they are interlocking, supporting one another. So when there's an online infringement, it's really up to the Attorney General, AGC, to decide which law to use against you. Then there's the Telecommunication Act to deal with rumor mongering causing undue alarm to the public. If you remember, last year, there was a 19-year-old youth was arrested for posting an online hoax that a national serviceman was shot dead during a training exercise at Sembawang. The 19-year-old youth was arrested for transmitting a false or fabricated message under the Telecommunication Act. So when asked why the need to impose an additional layer of MDA regulation, given that there are already so many existing laws dealing with online infringement, this is what our Dr. Yaacob said. He is, by the way, the Minister for Communication and Information. So he said, an individual license places a stronger onus on the individual licensee operating that website to be aware of its legal obligations and to report responsibly. He added, going by the reaction of some of these internet content providers, it would appear that not all of them are fully aware of the content standards in the class license. Otherwise, why would they argue that they will be censored? So Dr. Jacob seems to be saying that the new MDA regulations are enacted so as to make the licensed websites more aware of their legal obligation. Now, I find this to be a very weak argument because everyone knows that ignorance of the law is no excuse. One can't simply just go to court, and tell the judge that, he doesn't, because he or she doesn't know the law, so let he or she be excused. And so there's really no need to enact laws just to make people more aware of existing laws and their legal obligations. Now, for example, does it make sense that, say, the government enact a new law imposing every citizen like you and me to put up a performance bond of $1,000 each so as to make us aware of our legal obligations not to litter or to spit in public? This is ridiculous, right? Because there are already existing laws covering littering and spitting. Dr. Jacob is also saying that new sites may need to be licensed and individual blogs are exempted. Now, again, let me just go through the definition of the Singapore News, which Andrew and Ravi previously have already mentioned, and I'm going to repeat it one more time. Also, a Singapore News program is any program. A program is essentially a production. Is any news program containing any news intelligence, report of occurrence, or any matter of public interest. Now, take note of this last phrase, or any matter of public interest, about any social, economic, political, cultural, artistic, sporting, scientific, or any other aspect of Singapore. Again, I repeat the last phrase, or any other aspect of Singapore in any language, but it does not include any program produced on or behalf of, by the government. So, I think in Hokkien it's called Pao Sua Pao Hai. Everything and anything that's under the sun about Singapore is considered Singapore news by that definition, with the exception that the news comes from government, that is not counted lah. So, why use such a broad definition? And make no mistake, this is written in black and white. Now, Dr. Jacob may be very magnanimous to interpret that individual blog contents will not be classified as news content. But what if a new minister comes on board who is not as magnanimous as Dr. Jacob and decide that the individual contents can also be considered news by virtue of the written definition which I just cited above? The other thing is with regard to the new regulation, which a licensed website need to comply within 24 hours of take down notice from MDA. If the MDA finds that the content to be in breach of content standard under the class license scheme. Now, I just want to highlight this little hidden clause inside one of the class license scheme documents, and that clause said, and this in fact is called clause 4. A licensee who is in doubt as to whether any content would be considered prohibited may refer such content to the authority for its decision. So, in other words, the authority has the final say whether a website content is considered prohibited or not. So, given all the above reasons, how can the authority blame the netizens and bloggers for questioning the intent of the authority for the sudden introduction of the new MDA regulations? Indeed, many netizens remain unconvinced of the need for the new regulations, and during the Talking Point talk show a few days ago, there were 73% polls say that the new regulations will limit online content. Many on the ground are feeling that this sudden introduction of new regulation is politically motivated to curtail criticism against the government. And we all know that online criticisms against the government have been increasing. especially since the last general election in 2011. The government must understand that people criticize because they are unhappy with the many policies of the government. They have no other outlets to vent or to criticize except through the internet. This is especially so in the current media climate of Singapore. So we are currently like a kettle of boiling water with steam coming out from the spout. Now the last thing you want to do is to take a stopper and stick it onto the spout of the kettle so as to block the steam from coming out. Now if you don't want the kettle of boiling water generating that much steam, the correct way to do it is to lower the fire that is causing the water to boil. In other words, reverse those unpopular policy and you will get fewer grievances and less criticism online from the people. I therefore call upon the authorities to remove the new MDA regulation, which are clearly not compatible with the first world standard. Thanks.